promotional consideration has been paid for by the following. No one, because every business is closed because we're all going to die.
Top of the sixth, and rookie sensation Ricky Vaughn on the pitch now. You can close the book on Kellner.
Thank God.
Relax, Ricky. We're only 4 runs down. We're still in this game.
You take it to him? Oh, all right. Look, man, guy gets a second, first sign indicator.
Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his major league debut.
I'm gonna light your ass up, meat.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close?
Wild thing! You make my heart sing. You walk everything.
Taylor, what are you doing back up here?
Couldn't cut it the Mexican League.
How's your wife and my kids?
Vaughn in deep trouble here with Clu Haywood, last year's American League home run champ at the plate. Vaughn kicks, fires. Here is a swing and a drive toward left field and deep. Oh, boy.
No way. Too high.
It is gone off the reservation. A grand slam home run for Haywood.
Looked like a strike anyway.
Where you go? Too high? What does that mean, too high?
Too high.
So Vaughn is off to a rocky start as Haywood clears the bases with one swing.
Not too high, too hard, right?
First it was really high.
Who gives a shit? It's gone.
The Peterborough Patriots versus the Charlestown Chiefs. Brought to you by Sheehan's Rustproofing. The Chiefs have just come out on the ice for a warm-up period. They're about to try for their 5th consecutive win. They're getting a good round of applause from their own booster club, who have traveled all the way from Charlestown to be here in Peterborough tonight. No one to stop it because there are no officials on the ice. What has come over the Charlestown Chiefs?
The three of you guys, you pull one thing, you're out of this game. Now I run a clean game here. I have any trouble, I'll suspend you. I'm listening to a fucking song!
Now, let's analyze what's been working for us. Not a goddamn thing's been working for us. Like this goddamn suit doesn't work for me. And this stinking tie, and this goddamn shirt, it doesn't work for me! You know how to play winning hard-nosed football? You play football like a Gennaro played football. A guy who gave his life for this football team. He was a 140-pound halfback, and he played like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. And that's the way you gotta do it. You go out there, you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks. Let us pray.
People all say that I've had a bad break. But today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I just want to say one thing to my wife who's home. Yo, Adrian! I did it!
From the home office in Lincoln, Nebraska, it is the top 10 reasons to listen to Moody and Groo's Nothing Worthwhile Top 5 Sports Movie Podcasts. Number 10. Your heart rate will elevate just like exercising when you hear these two dipshits trying to break down Rocky V for 3 hours. Number 9. Try our keto and vegan-friendly options for this podcast. Number 8. Certified coronavirus-free by no one. Number 7. Just like a sports movie, be inspired as you watch Groo run up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, just like Rocky. Oh, wait. Oh my God. Call an ambulance. I think he's having a stroke. Number 6. Watch Groo set the picket fence for Moody. And 3. Oh, wait. No, it's an air ball. Number 5. Where else can a skinny white kid like Ralph Macchio win a statewide karate tournament? Number 4. No, John Connor had to die. Number 3. Sports movies teach us that hard work and dedication will always pay off. And somebody wake up Groo. Number 2. 2 words. Morris Buttermaker. And number 1, the number 1 reason to listen to our top 5 sports movie podcasts. If I could be serious for a moment, as our beloved nation spirals out of control with the latest pandemic, rest assured that these 2 nerd Jews will continue with their meaningless piece of crap podcast. Yeah! Broadcasting from an undisclosed location. It is America's number 1 bi-coastal podcast featuring 2 annoying Jews. Evan Moody here in an undisclosed location. I'll give you a hint, Groo. It's 400 degrees south latitude, 325 degrees north longitude. I don't even have my notes in front of me. We're free-forming it today. And on the East Coast, Andrew Groot is Groo. How the hell are you? Holding up okay? Can you hear me? Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry, getting a little cabin fever.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I was just chasing after my wife and children with an axe.
Are we actually even on right now?
Yes, we're on.
Oh,
yeah, we're on.
Oh, okay. Well,
we're on.
How the hell are you, my friend?
This is a dream come true for me. I mean, actually, I think it's kind of karma because my favorite thing to do in life is nothing, and I'm bored to death after 2 days. So it's like what? It's like I've been praying for this my whole life, and now that it's here, I want out. But I'm all right. I'm okay.
All right. Well, hang it in there. I don't know about you. They've announced schools closed here through April 10th. They pushed it back another 2 weeks. I think we're going to be in, as educators, in for it for the long haul. I think it's a good chance it's going to be shut down for the whole school year.
I think that's what it's going to be, but right now we're at April 15th, I believe, as our targeted return date. I don't think that's going to happen. We've already switched to online learning, which so far is it's picking up steam. But we'll see. Look, we are in uncharted territory. That's what's to me the most frightening thing about this whole thing is that it's not like some of the people can say, "Oh, I lived through this. I lived through that. You guys don't know." This is the first time for everybody. Yeah. Like, there's nobody to turn to who can say, I've been through this before and you haven't, so whatever. Nah, this is this has never happened. So that's kind of the scary thing about it to me.
Yeah. It's just a question of riding it out and checking in with family and friends, and hopefully everybody is safe out there. On a lighter note, somewhat unfortunate as well, it's a cancel for WrestleMania 36.
A lighter note, somewhat unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about stuff that we know and stuff that we love, and our streak is still intact. Groo has certified it an act of God. But let me just ask you, and it's not even on my notes, but off the top of your head, it looks like 2 nights, I think possibly Friday and Saturday. I'm not even sure if they're doing a Sunday, but WrestleMania being split up. We've talked about this before, not on the podcast, but we've talked about, I even said a WrestleMania Blue and a WrestleMania Red, a Raw and a SmackDown. So this might be, maybe they were pushed into it a little bit too quickly, but looks like 2 nights, WrestleMania tape segments. The rumors are a lot of maybe new and inventive stuff, a different way to present it. Any thoughts off the top of your head?
Well, I'm still looking forward to it. Bummed that we're not going to be there, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think the matches have picked up steam, specifically the Kevin Owens Seth Rollins thing. I'm buying into everything, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be, everything is new. I'm enjoying, maybe just because it's new and exciting, I'm enjoying the temporary format of their shows right now. They seem very, like our friend said, like our friend Craig. I know I always shout him out, but he said it's got a very old school NWA type house show feel, and it really does, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm curious to see. You know what I mean?
I think something's missing though with the crowd.
Oh, absolutely, 100%, 100%. But I am enjoying it, and it actually spotlights. It doesn't let a lot of things get in the way of the actual story, like the screaming announcers. It's dialed back. Maybe just because it's fresh. Maybe that could be the reason. But what what I told you, I don't think they should do like the big grand entrances as if there were people there. You know what I mean? That's a little awkward.
And they have the guy announce. I mean, Edge came out to the lights, no pyro, but it was funny because he did it like real quick and then walked down the aisle to the ring. I thought I don't know if it was the best segment, but I enjoyed the Stone Cold segment because they actually acknowledged with a wink the empty, arena.
Yeah, that was funny.
The empty chairs. Give me a hell yeah. Went on maybe a little bit too long, but I thought that was a cute segment.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know what they're going to be doing with the Hall of Fame or NXT. I've heard
cancel.
Is it
cancel
officially?
Yeah. From what I've read, the Hall of Fame possibly with SummerSlam. But Hall of Fame NXT, they're it's a wrap. They're done in terms of as an actual option for WrestleMania weekend.
Well, hey, look, maybe this will put the focus square back on what it used to be, the matches and wrestling. Maybe it won't be the spectacle that we've come to expect, but as we've been saying, it's been kind of too much lately.
Yeah, I have enjoyed, because of this little extra downtime, I got a chance to hit up the network, and I haven't even mentioned this to you off air, which we usually talk about it, but I've loved the Ruthless Aggression docuseries. Was fan-freaking-tastic.
Is it over? Are they stopping at Lesnar?
I just... no, they did 5 episodes. The 5th episode was...
Raw versus SmackDown, the draft.
Raw versus SmackDown.
Yeah, is that it?
I don't know. I haven't.
I hope not, because I'm loving it, like you.
Yeah, you liked Lesnar's episode the best.
Yes.
I thought the best episode, even by far, was the John Cena episode. I thought that
was great too. But
great stuff.
I love the way they cover Lesnar and the way they talk about how it's really a business to him. And he's not emotionally invested, and yet I just enjoy that stuff. By the way, we're talking about wrestling just to piss off my brother Steven.
Nah,
he hates it. He hates it when we go into wrestling.
Well, I think for me, the interesting thing about Brock, which they did focus a little bit, but I mean, forget about the business thing. I mean, he just was an athlete that they had not seen really up to that point. I mean, the size, the strength, the athleticism was really just off the charts. And for him to actually, after wrestling, try out for the Minnesota Vikings, hadn't played football since high school, and make the final cut.
Yep.
And almost on the fence to make the team is just ridiculous.
Huge, yeah. But yeah, it's a great series. So anyway, now that we are here and we're ready to go, what's our topic this week?
Well, our topic this week is top 5 sports movies. Before we get to that, I just wanted to throw out any final thoughts on our last podcast, The Boss, Human Touch, Lucky Town.
Well, I got a lot of good feedback from it. There were things.
I didn't, because all I did was get nerd fact checked by Springsteen nerds. Meadowlands was 15 nights. You said 9. Please, really?
Well, I didn't.
Tony Visconti produced the drum section.
I didn't do that.
Of course, I didn't. Say
But you know what? You in listening back to it, some of the stuff that you came up. What?
I know. I love listening to
it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And listening back to it, some of the stuff that you came up with was stuff, I'm a Springsteen nerd. There was some stuff I didn't know. I knew Zach Alford played for the B-52s, but I didn't know about that metronome thing. I didn't know a few things, and it was. I really enjoyed talking about it because, like I said in the last show, it's one of my favorite eras. Not my favorite Bruce eras, but one of my favorite Bruce eras to discuss and break down. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed listening to it even more. And I got a lot of good feedback from it.
Good. Last piece for me is Bruce just released on Apple Music the Hyde Park, the London shows. I downloaded it to my phone. Obviously, I've had to pick up jogging now as all the gyms are closed. So I'm doing a lot of running these days. So they had the London Hyde.
Yeah, Hyde Park. Hyde Park calling.
I think 2012. I think all the entire show. So
yeah, it's a good. It's pretty good. London Calling. It's a good one. Yeah, good.
All right, Groo. Listen, let's get to top 5 sports movies. But let me ask you before we start. I'll let you run the deal after this. But I just wanted to get your general thoughts on sports movies. Why do we love them so much? Where do you see sports movies sort of in American culture?
Well, look, they're a form of action movie in many ways. They're exciting. We either like to see what we could have been, or we just, most of us growing up in the United States are involved in some kind of athletics, some kind of sports when we're kids. It's very uncommon for kids not to be involved in this stuff, so it's something that's built in to our interest panel, and it's something that most people can relate to. And what makes better analogies for life and for things like that than a sports movie? And I think that's a common thread you find throughout most of them, at least the good ones. And it's just, it's like, why do people like cop buddy movies? Why does a certain group of people like romance movies? It's just one of those genres that has a huge fan base.
I think you hit it right on the head. Sports as a parable for life. I mean, I think clearly in at least 4 of my 5, there's definitely, bigger messages about life and relationships and all that stuff. And I mean, sports is a good way, I guess, to present it.
Oddly, in my top 5, there's not much of that.
Oh, my Lord.
But, I went to, in making these lists, I really had to look back, and, of course, there's not one. Actually, there is one from the 2000s. But before that, the latest one would be 1993.
Wow. I'm probably a little or a lot more current. What I did, you probably had like some kind of weird draft lottery. You probably had a board up in your apartment, and you were just pulling off stickies. And,
well, what the hell else am I going to do?
I
go jogging? No.
I sat down with a piece of paper, and I just really tried to think about sports movies that have really affected me, and crossed out a few, and just went from there. All right, let's get to it. I'll lead this piece, but you mentioned you had some honorable mentions. So let me go with let me hear some of your honorable mentions.
Okay, you want to start with that? Okay, fine.
Let's freestyle.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that, those of you out there, if you listened to our top 10 movie podcast, one of my top 10 was Rocky. Rocky is not on my list, and the reason is this, because I don't consider Rocky, the original Rocky, to be a sports movie. I've already said that. I have already said that. It's not even on my honorable mentions list because to me it's not a sports movie.
All right, thank you for.
Okay. I just full disclosure.
Okay.
All right.
If I hear you say full disclosure one more time, I swear I'm going to come over this.
Full transparency.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, a couple of honorable mentions: Slapshot. The Karate Kid. Is that a sports movie in your mind?
Sure.
Okay. Kingpin.
I don't know about that one, but okay.
It's an honorable mention. It's not in my, Remember the Titans.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Field of Dreams, which almost cracked the top 5. Almost. Bull Durham. Brian Song.
I was a little young, but go ahead.
So was I, but I've seen it a bunch of times. Caddyshack.
Great.
Blue Chips.
Great.
Because it's you and me, I consider it a sports movie. The Wrestler.
Great.
Seabiscuit.
Never seen it.
Really? Ooh,
yep.
It's a great movie. $1 Million Baby.
Great, controversial.
Yeah. The Sandlot.
Great movie.
Breaking Away.
Harkening back to my youth, but I remember it being a very powerful movie.
Mm-hmm. The original, The Longest Yard, with Burt Reynolds.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Not the Adam Sandler piece of shit.
Yep.
The Replacements. Do you remember that one? From like 2000?
Good.
Yeah, I really, it's very underrated, I think. And my final honorable mention was Predator. Terminator 6. The Natural.
I didn't even think about that movie. That was a great movie.
Yeah, and honestly, and I just want to talk about The Natural for 30 seconds. The Natural would probably be in my top 5 if it weren't for the fact that the baseball in it is very fake, and that's something that really just stops a movie dead in its tracks for me, because it's a great story and there's a lot of greatness in it, but whenever they're playing baseball, it just looks ridiculous. So.
Well, I don't even know the name of the movie, but there was a John Goodman as Babe Ruth movie.
It's called The Babe.
Well, it's maybe the worst baseball staged in a movie ever.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for that. I remember why. Because he was a righty. John Goodman was a righty, and he insisted on learning how to bat left-handed, and he looked absolutely ridiculous. Unlike one of my worst sports movies on a short list, only 2 movies, is Pride of the Yankees.
Really?
Yes.
Would you like
to know?
You must have that like on a Voodoo account or something, because I mean that movie is like 100 years old.
I do. I own it. But
isn't that considered a classic?
Yes, and the reason that I go so opposite with it is, number one, the baseball is terrible. But back in 1942, they couldn't do much. They reversed the film because Gary Cooper played Lou Gehrig, and Cooper was a righty, so they did everything backwards. And you can really tell that they're doing it backwards, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. And plus, it's really in the portrayal of Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig was a tough New York kind of guy. He talked like that. He was Dutch, but he had this thick New York accent. And Gary Cooper's like, when Lou Gehrig said, "Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." I mean, that's what he sounded like. Gary Cooper's playing it like, "Today I consider myself the luckiest man," and that's what the movie's like. And it bothers me because I am a huge fan of old, even though I'm a Mets fan, I'm a huge fan of like classic Yankee stuff. So I'm very critical of The Babe and Pride of the Yankees.
I've listened to Gehrig's speech many times, the actual feed. He didn't sound like he had like some crazy New York Northeast accent.
If you listen to it after listening, you're going to hear, you didn't hear the opening clip package, but if you hear the way Gary Cooper says it, and then you go to YouTube and listen to the way Gehrig says it, okay, you'll hear the difference. And,
fair enough.
And my other worst is a movie called Glory Road, which I'm not even going to talk about.
Oh my God!
Did you see it?
No, but it's probably some B movie that...
Well, that's the problem. It's not a B movie. It's a Disney Jerry Bruckheimer basketball movie that's just so god-awful that it's not even worth spending time on.
Who was in Glory Road?
An actor named Josh Lucas.
I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah,
I like Glory Days, but not Glory Road.
Glory Days, the song. Yeah, the music video for Glory Days is better than the movie Glory Road.
Yes.
It also had John Voight as Adolph Rupp.
Springsteen, admittedly, not a very good baseball player.
No, he looked like, he was trying to pitch. He couldn't pitch for anything. But
yeah.
In any case, so those are my worst two. And I gave you my honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable mentions, or are we going right?
Listen, I barely made this podcast. I was watching movies up until 20 minutes ago. So,
all right.
I wanted to see the movies in their entirety this time around, because I felt like when we did the top 10, I did see some of them, but I was really going from memory, and I wanted to see them again, to see if they resonated with me. I watched 4 out of my 5 movies, and damn it, they still, it's still real to me. I mean, it really resonated with me. There were moments actually I was teary, and I really tried to. This is perfect. Isolate myself, and Marie was upstairs doing house projects, and I watched and really tried to take notes as the movie proceeded. Just free forming as stuff played out. I tried to really do like a Groo and get the insight of the movie. What is the movie really trying to say?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really need to do that because my life is way more pathetic than yours. So
no, it's not.
All 5 of these movies that are on my list, I could quote from beginning to end. I didn't even need to look at them. So while you were doing that, I was looking in my shower for the cure for the coronavirus. Because I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
That's big.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to do this? You want me to start?
Well, why don't you start with, we'll go your number 5, my number 5, then your number 4, my number 4. We'll do it that way.
Oh, God. I'm actually nervous. I'm really...
You nervous for all 7 of our listeners?
Well, I'm, clearly from your pre-comments, you're probably going to go back to earlier movies, probably of a higher, more classic ilk.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not going to read into it. So
yeah. So are you ready for your number 5? Wait. Hold on. Number 5. And
my number 5, I harken back to my youth, is The Bad News Bears.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Here's what I'll say about it. It's a sports movie disguised as a kids movie, but The Bad News Bears is really great, soft, profane fun. But when I watched it, there's really something really subversive about the movie. It's full of children, yet there's a ton of adult profane humor. They drop a ton of curse words. racial slurs all over the movie. It's something that would certainly not fly today. And even I said maybe some of this stuff is a precursor to like Ren and Stimpy and Family Guy.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's a kids movie, but it's just loaded with just, profane stuff. But what I love it, while I find it a bit subversive, there's something really sweet about it because it focuses on Little League and baseball, and it harkens back to like my youth and our generation's younger days. It's not a very well shot movie. It looks kind of low budgety. I've seen porn that's more beautifully shot, but it just, for me, it works.
All porn is beautifully shot.
Well, that could be for another time. Walter Matthau completely fits as a out of luck drunk Morris Buttermaker, and Tatum O'Neal as Amanda, Jackie Earle Haley as Kelly Leak, Chico Bailbond. It's just I
have the jersey. You've probably seen it. I have the jersey.
I could go through the movie, but it just works for me. When I made my list, I just always remember as a kid loving the movie. Went back to it. That last game versus the Yankees and some of the tension there actually kind of brought a little bit of a tear to my eye. So I have a ton of notes, but I'll wait to hear your thoughts. So my number 5 is the original.
Yeah.
Bad News Bears.
A classic, absolute classic, hilarious, subtle. It's not one of those like in your face, like reaching out from the screen and choke you, saying "laugh now." It's like it's got one of my favorite lines in any movie. It's when Tanner, the shortstop, is in the outfield and he throws the ball to nobody, and then on the bench, Ogilvy says to Buttermaker, he's like, "Is that an error?" Buttermaker just matter of factly says it's the error on the throw. It's not an error on the infielder because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
I love that. It's, to me, the Bad News Bears is is a perfect movie in many ways, and it captures Little League. It really does. The parents who claim to have no time to coach, but yet are at every practice and every game, yelling from the stands and criticizing. The overzealous coach, was it Turner in the movie? The Yankees coach, how this is life and death, for some people, and for the Bears, and they just want to play baseball, and it's hilarious, it's heartfelt. The relationship between Tatum O'Neal and Walter Matthau, Buttermaker, and Amanda is beautiful. It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, you mentioned some of your thoughts. So for me, the key scene, that last scene where, Buttermaker realizes that in his zest to win, he's actually scaring his players. He's really scaring the kids, and he's telling Kelly Leak, grab every ball that's playable. And then, of course, it's juxtaposed with the Yankees, which is actually the real strong scene. And I found myself very sad when Tanner, the opposing coach, chastised his son.
Yeah.
And the son gets the ground ball from Engelberg, holds the ball as Engelberg.
Yep.
Ooh, you just faded out.
I'm here. Keep going.
As they round the bases to tie the game. And then of course Lupus actually catches the fly ball in right field. There's a sincerity there. You've seen those scenes in sports movies before where the loser comes through at the very end, but there's a sincerity there that you don't see with today's movies.
Right.
And of course the team loses, but how do they celebrate? They with a stone cold beer bath, cracking beers. So, number 5 was the Bad News Bears.
Yeah, and if I could just say one more thing, something that's absent from a lot of movies like that today is if you look at the characters and the whole thing, everybody goes from point A to point B. Like Buttermaker, there's character development in the movie. And today, the kind of raunchy comedies that exist, they're not worried about that. They're just hopping from laugh to laugh. And the Bad News Bears actually takes time in setting everything up and who everybody is. You could name most, if not all, of the team. I know I could. And that's the mark of a great sports movie, a team sports movie where you know the players. And too many of them just ignore that. Either they only focus on the coach or they focus on other things. But this was about Buttermaker and his team, and it's great. It's priceless.
I think the last thing when I watched it, I was really shocked at the level of profanity and
it was really, rated PG. It was rated PG back then.
It's not politically correct. You get every racial slur in the book. You get Walter Matthau throwing a beer at Tatum O'Neal in the dugout. You got adults slapping.
You got him
kids.
Drunk driving. The very first scene in the movie.
It's just. I'm watching this going, oh my God, what a different time.
Oh, you know what else? Oh, I have to mention this because it still makes me laugh even thinking about it. When Buttermaker's they're sitting by the pool and he's telling him the story of Ted Williams, and Lupus is making him the martini, and he's doing it perfectly. He's shaking up the thing, and then he gives it to him. And he's like, "Ooh, superb, Lupus." Lupus, but it's like a beautifully looking with the olive and everything. To me, that's the level of detail in that movie that you don't see. So great pick.
All right, let me hear your number 5.
My number 5 best sports movie of all time is a little film from 1993 called Rudy.
Yes.
Love
that.
I'll applaud myself on that one. Yes. Rudy it's not perfect. It's not perfect. There are flaws to it, but it's just so damn good. And there's not even a lot for me to say. Just the way that Rudy tells its story. It's like once he gets to Notre Dame, like today, if Rudy were made today, okay, he would have to be on the field at Notre Dame 10 minutes in. Okay? He doesn't get to Notre Dame until like the final act of the movie. And because it's spending all this time on his journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And just seeing how all the people involved in this journey, from the priest to his friend Jon Favreau and his family who don't really believe in him. They love him, but they don't believe in him really. And it's really just misplaced dreams of their own. All of that is present without them throwing it in our face. So by the time he gets on that field at Notre Dame, we are 150% with him. Win or lose, no matter what. And it's just us and Rudy on this journey. He's got us from the first moment. And that movie makes me tear up every time at the end. Not so much when they carry him off the field, but when the Charles Dutton character, Fortune is his name, because he's the one who's like giving Rudy the tough love throughout the movie. And then when you see him like literally smile for the first time and start clapping, like that's the moment that gets me every time. And Rudy just knocks me out. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. Obviously I don't have notes on Rudy in front of me, but I know when I saw the movie, I really, really enjoyed it. And I remember that's Sean Astin, I believe, in the title role.
Sean Astin, fresh off the Goonies.
Yeah, I remember those guys' performance was really, really convincing. Was Rudy a commercial hit?
Not really. Sports movies in general are not big hits. Save for like a Remember the Titans or I don't know. I can't even name that many that are really monster hits. They don't make a lot of money, believe it or not. And Rudy was no different. It wasn't a bomb, but it did not make a fortune. I remember that. But the football scenes are phenomenal. They really had that, and I know that they filmed that final game at the Notre Dame Penn State game. I think that's what it was. And I'm going to be a real snob right now, and you're going to hate me for it, but the reason that I know that is because Vince Vaughn told me that. Because he's in the movie.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, Vince Vaughn did tell me that. Vince Vaughn is in the movie. He plays one of Rudy's antagonists on the team, a young Vince Vaughn. And the movie's very well cast. Just fires on all cylinders.
I'm enjoying Vince Vaughn on this season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I haven't watched it. I watched like the first couple episodes, and I thought it was okay. And my cousin Alex told me that it was an off season. Now I'll watch it just because I got nothing else to do. But to me it jumped. It kind of jumped the shark last year or the last season.
With the fatwa?
Yeah, I didn't find it funny. But I'll watch this season.
I love Larry and Leon's relationship, but
that's what I don't like about it, because Cheryl was a much better foil for him, and it was much funnier.
She's still in the show.
But Leon, I don't know, but we could say that for another one. But
number 5, great pick.
Okay, so your number 5 was Bad News Bears. My number 5 was Rudy. So now let's go to your number 4, which is...
Oh my God! I'm gonna just see you look on your face. But my number 4, damn it, and I don't care what you say, but my number 4 sports movie is The Wrestler.
That's terrific. So it is. So to you, it is a sports movie, and I'll accept that. I will accept that.
Well, listen, it's a sports movie that's sort of disguised, it's a relationship movie. It's shot in a very sort of heavy metal style. It looks very much like an 80s movie, directed by Darren Aronofsky. To me, the biggest thing of the movie is, what happens when the thing you most love is taken away from you? Can you move on? And in essence, Randy the Ram and Cassidy are the same character. That's the one thing I picked up on when I watched it. They're both 80s legends, trying well past their prime, trying to hold on to whatever little shine they have left. They love the 80s.
What was Cassidy? Was she always a stripper? What was she? Was she like a former actress or something?
No, they reference, she's a stripper, but then she has dreams of, I think, like getting involved with designing or having her own,
all right, now I remember, yeah.
Design store. They're both commitment phobic. They both have aliases. They're in a sense, the same person. And, I'll just end my opening remarks with, my favorite scene of the movie is when Randy goes and sets up for the fan festival.
Oh, God.
He scans the room and he sees all the wrestlers.
Painful.
One guy has a catheter. He's pissing and he...
It was like when we saw the Honky Tonk Man a few years ago at WrestleCon.
Well, Honky's probably in better shape, but that scene where he goes and wrestles the Necro Butcher in CZW it's almost like torture porn. I almost had to turn away because it's really uncomfortable, and you really see the price that these guys pay for their art or for their sport. Yeah. So. And yes, I'm a big wrestling fan, but I think that's Mickey Rourke. It's just all the performances are amazing, and I watched it last night and I was glued to my television. So my number 4 is The Wrestler.
Yeah, and it's hard to disagree with that. The Wrestler is a great movie, and I'll tell you my favorite scene, which speaks to what you were saying about what happens when they have to give it up. They can't give it up, and that's... go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
The other scene that always resonates with me is the last scene in the deli counter in the grocery store. They superimpose it like he goes through the curtains like it's a wrestling show, and he comes out to like old women, and he cuts his hand. And
actually, all right, it's not the last deli scene. It's the first one. The first one... The first one where you see him backstage, you're following him, and you hear the crowd. You can hear the crowd. So he walks through the curtain, and what's he doing? He's entertaining everybody. He's having fun with it. That's what he is. He's an entertainer. The second deli scene is when he's losing his mind. So that's a great scene too. But the scene that really tells us what the movie is about is that deli scene. And that's where, but the whole movie, like, and behind the scenes of the wrestling business, where they're, you know, where he's talking to the other guys, and even the language, you know, we take it home, we calling everybody brother. I mean, they did their research on that movie, and Mickey Rourke just lived it, and it's a great movie, and it's got one of the, we talked about it last time, it's got one of the greatest movie songs ever.
Yes, it's not very. It doesn't paint wrestling or smaller promotion wrestling in a very favorable light. I mean, it's
no, but that's okay though, isn't it?
Okay.
I mean, as a wrestling fan, no, I know that, but as a wrestling fan, there's nothing there, and I'm asking you this question: is there anything there that we didn't already know about the business? We know about steroids. Yeah, I mean, we love wrestling. We love it, from the small house shows to the big grand stage. But we've known about, you know, the steroid stuff and all that. To see it in a movie so delicately played is what makes it great. But did we learn anything from it? And this doesn't have anything to do with its greatness or not. But you said that it doesn't paint a flattering picture. What does? Nothing. Wrestling is the bastard stepchild of sports. It always has been, right?
Listen, you're right. I mean, I think initially the WWE, if you remember, was cool to the movie, and then eventually they kind of wrapped it with the promotion of that year's WrestleMania, where they had Jericho versus Mickey Rourke and a bunch of legends, Rick, Steamboat and Piper, and I think Snuka was the actual match. But no, you're absolutely right. And of course, I'm always a sucker for, the final scene where, he admits to himself and to Cassidy that wrestling, the fans, that never hurt him.
They were always there for him.
The real world, he was, a piece of crap, or he felt that way. And, that's, he decides to go back and relive with his final match. One funny scene that I always love is when he's playing the
video game.
The old school Nintendo wrestling game with the kid, and the kid's telling him about Call of Duty, and he says, "Call it Duty 4," and I remember laughing like, that was a funny scene. It's just
it's tough to watch too, isn't it?
Well,
some parts,
especially the scene where he's in that CZW hardcore match versus the Necro Butcher, and he's taping, he's gimmicking up, he's got the blade, and at one point he takes off a kid's prosthetic leg and he smacks the Necro Butcher with the prosthetic leg.
It's a great movie, great pick.
The relationship with his estranged daughter, the heart condition, every kind of works really, really well. But ultimately, it's a sports movie that's paralleling relationships, and when I thought about it, a movie that really stuck with me. You could debate whether it's sports, but anyway,
I'm not going to. I'm going to accept it. It was on my honorable mentions list, so it's there. So great pick, great movie, great pick.
Give me. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Your number 4.
My number 4. My number 4 is a movie you've definitely seen. It was actually part of our clip package, and it's a little movie from 1989. Called Major League.
Oh, love it.
Do you?
I've loved Major League.
All right,
absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, Major League is. Go ahead.
Well, I think it was for me. It's definitely good. It's a little slapsticky. It's a little. I don't know. I definitely enjoyed it, and I definitely had a lot of laughs as seeing it, but top 5, don't know. But let me hear your case for it.
Well, number 1, it's absolutely hilarious.
You'll break it down.
No, I'm not gonna. Okay. There's not much to break down because it's not what you would call. It's not like on the deep level of The Wrestler or even The Bad News Bears. It's just a great, fun movie about a Major League Baseball team, and the fact that they were able to get all the trademarks and they were able to use the stadiums and the uniforms and all that. That's a very difficult thing to do today. You got to pay a lot of money for that, for the rights to use these things. And it really captured, with both on the play on the field, the characters and the locker room and all of it, it captured life on a Major League Baseball team. And those characters were just great. Charlie Sheen is hysterical. The young punk, the old former legend who never really made it, Jake Taylor, Tom Berenger, great performance. The third baseman or shortstop, I think Roger Dorn was. No, Dorn was third base. Corbin Burnson, he's the
Corbin Burnson.
He's like the rich guy who really doesn't give a shit about the team. He just wants to collect his paycheck and go home. And the grizzled coach, and the story of it is fantastic. Just like who
plays the grizzled coach, because he's in a shit ton of movies.
Yeah, his name was James Gammon. He's gone now, but his name was James Gammon. Great character actor, and the whole story about the owner of the team trying to make them lose so that it's great. It gives the movie its kick. Some of the funniest stuff, because they have to go out and get all these players. And just when they're, the little lines like, this guy here is dead. She's like, so cross him off the list. And like when they're going over the fans are going over the names in the diner, they're saying Jake Taylor, Richard Vaughn, Mitchell Friedman. Like, who are these guys? Like, it's just hysterical. And Bob Uecker as the announcer, Harry Doyle, his quips are just absolutely priceless. It's great, and the baseball is fantastic. Like, it's perfect.
A very young Wesley Snipes.
Yes,
am I correct?
Yes. In fact, Wesley Snipes was he created a great character, Willie Mays Hayes, and it was like the last movie that he was like really, really funny in. Like, he started doing like all like action movies after that. He was the only one who didn't. He was the only one who wouldn't come back for the sequel, which sucked anyway. But he didn't come back because he was like too big of an action star. Everybody else came back, but he didn't come back. Somebody else actually replaced him.
How many sequels did they mine out of Major League?
2. They did Major League 2, and then it was Major League 3, which was back to the minors, which only had from the original, I think, Corbin Burnson, Uecker, and the guy and Serrano.
Okay.
But actually the second sequel, the one with the minor leagues, is better than Major League 2. Major League 2 is just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably seen. They sound very familiar. I just can't remember anything off the top of my head. But anything with Bob Uecker and Corbin Burnson's got to be.
Well, do you have what are your thoughts about Major League?
It's a great movie. Just in terms of putting it on a top 5 list, I don't know. It's a little slapsticky, a little sitcom-y. It's a great movie for its purpose. I don't know. I feel like you're a real deep movie guy. And, maybe you would have put it on a sports movie comedy list, but a top 5 all time, that's a crazy pull. But
I think
you know your movies. I'm not.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with it. I mean, a lot of people, when I talk about Major League, they usually put Bull Durham right beside it, and I think Major League is better. And look, I wouldn't know because I've never been on a professional baseball team, but I just feel like Major League captures what it's really like. And I think Bull Durham's great. It's hilarious, but like the romance stuff kind of gets in the way. Major League, the romance stuff takes a backseat to the baseball, and that's what matters to me.
And for
in a movie like this.
And for you, Major League, the baseball scenes were pretty realistic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, actually, I do remember. Yeah, I mean,
Charlie Sheen knows how to play. Like,
oh, okay.
And those, well, yeah, he'd been in another baseball movie.
He sure does.
I walked right into that one. He was in a previous baseball movie, 8 Men Out, about the Black Sox.
Yes. That was a good one too.
That was a very good one. Very good one.
But I don't even know how. These are tough. These are tough.
Yeah, it's very tough. But yeah, so your number 4 was what was it? The Wrestler. The Wrestler.
It's so memorable. You forgot.
No, it is. And mine is Major League. So now we're going to go to Evan's number 3. He's shaking his head. He knows it's going to piss me off.
No, it's not going to piss you off. I'm going to need your help because this is the one movie I didn't see. You'll probably know it off the top of your head, like you know every movie. So I'm going to tell you my movie, then tell you what it meant to me and why I put it there, and I'll ask you for filler. Okay?
Okay, go for it.
All right. So my number 3 sports movie is Hoosiers.
You
know, for me, it's a sports movie that's it's a redemption.
Wait,
movie.
I'm gonna cut you off. All right, I'm gonna cut you off in the interest of time because my number 3 is Hoosiers.
Okay, so
now continue.
All right, and then because you'll be able to pick up the more detailed pieces. But for me, what stood out is it's a redemption movie masquerading as a sports movie. So the Gene Hackman character, and again, you'll be able to give the details, but I didn't get a chance to see it, and I didn't even look up anything. You know, there's something in his past. I think it had to do possibly with abuse or child abuse, or hit a player, and he's going to small town America to sort of reinvent himself as a coach. And he's going to break down this one town that has these long-standing traditions with the basketball program, and again, parents who want to control the deal, and you got the side romance with, I think it's Barbara Hershey, and the star player Jimmy Chitwood, and to me, that scene where Chitwood is shooting threes, just knocking them down. He goes to visit him. I think it's at his home. He's playing in a little dusty court, and I think basically Hackman's telling him, like, you're going to have to follow my rules, my way, or you're not playing. And maybe for the first time, the program's not catering to the star athlete. You see him finally miss a 3 as the camera pans away. And Dennis Hopper, the alcoholic father, and the build up to the big game, the small town team finally playing under the bright lights. Gene Hackman, that's really to me. Again, I'm not probably as a big movie fan like you, but that's one of his best performances. It may be not his best. So yeah, I didn't see it, so I don't have so much.
Wait,
notes
you mean you didn't see it yesterday?
No, I tried.
But you've seen it.
Of course, I've seen it many times. I wanted to watch it recently to kind of update my thoughts on it, so I don't have that. So let me throw it to you, and we'll volley it across. Go ahead.
Well, you really said everything. I mean, you're right about that. It's all about redemption, not just him, but about the Barbara Hershey character too. She's got demons. The kids have demons.
What were her
she'd been married and hurt, something along those lines. She was still living with her mother. Hey, they're there, right? She's very protective. She's very protective of Jimmy, who had been through some trauma, losing his parents. You have Hopper, who was a failed college basketball player, and now is the town loser. And the team itself it's just a monster comeback story. The thing in Hackman's past was 20 years earlier he was coaching for Ithaca, and he had hit one of his players and was suspended from college ball for life. So he'd spent the previous 20 years in the Army before coming back to coach this small high school team. But one thing he says to Barbara Hershey, which is very interesting about the movie, is when he's describing the incident, he says, and it was my favorite player. He loved him. And that says a lot about what this movie is, what this movie tells us. And there's so much, and the basketball's terrific, and the special effects are incredible. I mean, 7 white guys playing for the high school championship. Never. That's to paraphrase a Chris Rock joke from years ago. But
no. Chris Rock. I think Chris Rock.
It was Rocky IV.
He said
2 white guys
fight for the heavyweight championship of the world.
Man,
damn,
that's Spielberg. Yeah. But Hackman, it's my favorite Gene Hackman performance. See, this is where myself and my brother disagree. He would know more than me because he's a basketball coach. I'm not really. But I thought Hackman, like, in his mannerisms and his movements with the ball, and like he really looked like a high school basketball coach. My brother says he's not perfect at it, but either way, to me, it works. And my number 3 is Hoosiers, just like you. And to me, that was an Oscar-worthy movie. It was just so damn good.
What year was Hoosiers released?
86. Platoon beat it.
Was Hoosiers nominated? Do you know off the top of your head? What was
No, the only nomination was Dennis Hopper for Best Supporting Actor. Now, like I said,
really?
Sports movies are not. I don't know. They're looked at differently, but the music in the movie is amazing. You remember the music? It was like very synthy, but good synthy.
Yes.
Like a real, it was rousing, and it's Hoosiers is amazing. Hoosiers is incredible. I love that pick for both of us.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, like we know all those players. We know Buddy and Raid, and we know these guys, and Jimmy. Like we know who they are and where they come from, and how important all this is to them. And like Gene Hackman, Norman Dale, his arc is like he's all about basketball, all about winning, all about his way. And then in that last game, it's not about that anymore. He loves these guys, and he tells them so. And then that last play, when there's like 10 seconds left, he tells them what they're going to do, and then the players disagree, and they come up with a better idea, and he goes with it. That's like he has found he's arrived, and that it wouldn't work as well if they went in a different direction. Are you remembering?
I might agree with Steven on that one.
What do you mean?
That was a joke. I don't see a head coach, going, oh, wait, yeah, you're right. Let's.
I said that to Steven. I said, we were talking about it not long ago, maybe a few months, and I said there's one flaw. I said Norman Dale's character would never, like in my mind, he would be like, okay, when you're coaching the team, we'll do it your way, but this is my team. And Steven was like, no, when a coach trusts his players, there's no greater bond, and he totally believed it. So Steven is I take his word on that. So we agree.
Okay.
So yeah,
fair enough.
Hoosiers number 3 for both of us. That's cool. I like when that happens. I doubt. Yep. Well, I will
not match. We will not match our number 1 and 2.
No, we will not match.
I'm almost scared to move ahead with this.
Well, do you want me to do my number 2 first?
Do not, because I want to see.
Because even though it doesn't match the number, the movie is The Bad News Bears.
Get out of
here! Just like yours. I mean, yeah, the number 2, and we've already talked about it.
Yours is the newer Billy Bob.
No. What are you, nuts?
That's a joke. I've never
what are you, insane? I saw it. I almost walked out of the theater. I mean, really? That was woke before woke. It was like he's drinking non-alcoholic beer, and instead of the councilman is now a woman, and they start a romance instead of them being adversaries. They had the handicapped kid playing shortstop. And they couldn't do all the stuff that made the original so funny. And I remember before I just want to finish this thought before I forget it. I remember when I heard they were making it with Billy Bob Thornton, I said the only way to do this. What's the matter?
No, because my thing is why? Why do they even have to remake this?
Okay, but when I heard it,
classic.
Right, you're absolutely right. And I said when I heard that they were remaking it with Billy Bob Thornton, I said the only way they can succeed with this if they make it as if it's a sequel to Bad Santa. They take that character and put him as a baseball coach.
Okay.
And make it R-rated and hardcore just like that. But they didn't do it. They made a very sanitized, watered-down version of the original, and I've only seen it once, which is rare for me. But I will never I don't even want to think about it anymore because they really botched that one. But
Did the remake do anything?
I don't think so.
Money?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But the original, like we said everything. We said everything there is to say. So yeah, Bad News Bears, the Bad News Bears. That's the difference between the two. The new one is just called Bad News Bears. The original is called The Bad News Bears. Did you see any of the sequels?
Probably, but it's hard for me to remember off the top of my head.
The second one's kind of fun.
Yeah. Is it with Mathau?
No, Mathau and Tatum O'Neal did not come back, but pretty much the whole team did. It's really not funny, but it's fun.
Is it the same? Is it the same story? Sort of.
No, remember it sort of retconned.
Did they play in the? Did they play in the Astrodome?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah. How do I
like they actually retcon the fact that they lost the game in the original, and they touted them as the California Little League champs and sent them to Texas to play a game against the Texas champs in the Houston Astrodome. And for some reason, the baseball in that is not good.
It's not really good in the original Bad News
I think it is.
Either.
I think it is. Remember, it's kids.
Yes.
So but you could see the fakeness in the sequel. You can't really see the staging because they're supposed to be spastics. You know what I mean? In the first one.
Is that in Bad News Bears 2? I think my favorite scene is when Engelberg is taking a crap and he's eating Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Shut the damn door!
The door's open.
Yeah. Well, because the kids are having.
Now I'm getting a flood of memories.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I would say about the Bad News Bears, though, is if you watch it, and I know we've said it before, but my last thought on it, it is really shocking what they got away with back. And you told me it's a PG. It's a PG movie.
Yes,
I mean,
but
forget the slurs. You got adults slapping kids. You got you've got the Buttermaker throwing a beer at Tatum O'Neal in anger.
He actually grabs. Remember when the kid Rudy Stein didn't follow his directions? He literally grabs him and he throws him against the wall.
It's really rough stuff.
Why can't we do that today? Wait, what?
I don't. Well, I mean, why does Hollywood seem to just they nowadays they got to position every sort of agenda into every movie, and even movies that are not meant for agendas, like a kid's sports movie. I mean, why do you gotta is it just so much pressure now? I mean,
that's because for everything that happens, for every piece of art or entertainment or awards, it's got to be diverse. It's not about what's the best. It's about making sure that everybody's represented, and it's like, that's the culture. And everyone you talk to will say they don't care about it, but then they'll go and turn around and vote for it. You know what I mean? It's like they'll say, "Yeah, I can't stand this woke culture. It doesn't need to be this. It doesn't need to be that." Then when the awards come out, they'll say, "Why is there only one woman nominated for Best Director?" Well, maybe the best movies weren't made by women this year. What's the difference? That's the thing. They'll say they want art, but it's got to be art with parameters. That's just the way it is. And that's why you'll never get the kind of entertainment that we used to have. It's really true. Yeah. You know, I mean, look at we're getting off on a tangent.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Hollywood's a very liberal town. That's all.
Yes, but the world is a liberal world now. Even though half of it, or the country, is a liberal country when it comes to that stuff. Because, like I said, everybody will say, they're afraid to say to your face that they want there to be this kind of diversity, but then they'll turn around and be the first to complain about it when it's not there. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy.
All right. Well, and let's
why are there no Jewish kids on the team? You know, actually there was one.
There was. I think the kids.
Rudy Stein.
Tanner's constantly saying the Jew and the this.
Yeah.
Movie. That Tanner character is a real.
Oh my God. He was in the second one, and he basically said the same stuff, but it didn't pack the punch that it did in the first one. And then the third one was a piece of crap. They go to Japan.
I remember that one too. You want to do your number 2, or you want me to go to my number 2?
I did. My number 2 was the Bad News Bears. So now we want to hear your number 2. And here we go. Number 2 from Evan Moody is...
My number 2 sports movie is...
Why do you sound and look like you're on the toilet?
I'm not on the toilet. It's Jerry Maguire.
I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
It's
not that
buddy.
It's. Go ahead.
Well, let me give you my notes.
Go.
I'm going to use slurs now. It's a buddy. It's a buddy comedy disguised as a sports movie. We've seen it before, but what always really struck me about this movie is the dichotomy of the two main characters, Jerry Maguire and Rod Tidwell. Cameron Crowe directed. It's got a great flow. It's got great music. We've got the Springsteen song. We've got amazing cameos, sports cameos. We've got Glenn Fry, for Christ's sakes. Great dialogue. Renee Zellweger's Intro to the World. We got super cute Jonathan Lipnicki, Evil J. Moore as a shallow,
Bert Sugar. Wait, no, not Bert Sugar. Bob Sugar. That was his name, right? Yeah.
But I find, and I watched it like 2 or 3 nights ago, the two main characters, the dichotomy. You got Tom Cruise as this absolutely winning, smooth-talking, first-class sports agent who, in the movie, has his first taste of real failure and absolutely falls to pieces in his personal life. And you got Cuba Gooding Jr. as that sort of that first movie to sort of indicate that athletes are becoming these cocky, arrogant divas who all they want to do is just get paid, who has lost the love of the sport, but as a man, he's a faithful family man, and he is very much loyal and loves his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie the movie's theme I find to be, it's really about that personal touch. As Tom Cruise leaves this multi-gazillion-dollar mega firm to kind of start to go on his own with his one client, and that's Gooding's Rod Tidwell. And then, the movie really asks, how do you play with it in life? Do you go with your head, or do you play it with your heart? And, some of those great iconic scenes, Cruise being forced to scream, show me the money, I love black people, as he's being pressured to try to retain his clients. 2 white kids asking Rod Tidwell for an autograph, asking him, are you Hootie? Mixing him up with Hootie.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
The help me, help you in the locker room where Rod Tidwell starts cracking up. And, help me, help you. You know, white guy out of control. And then, of course, the ending scene is predictable where he gets knocked out, but he makes the winning catch. But, I fell for it. I fell for it anyway. So, and ultimately Rod Tidwell's redemption, and he finds that guy who initially had joy in playing football, and ultimately through that gets the riches that he feels he was so deserving from. You complete me. You had me at hello. Some of these iconic movie lines. So, listen, I'm sure there's a lot of flaws. but it's by far, and I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but this is by far my favorite Tom Cruise movie. I'm also a sucker for the Mission Impossible. I love those for what it is, pulpy, cheesy action.
Yeah.
But maybe it's too high on my list. I see your dissatisfaction, but that's what.
Well, it's not dissatisfaction because I agree with 99.9% of everything you said as far as the movies. I'll tell you, but as far as the movie's greatness, it's a classic. It's a phenomenal movie, and it never gets old. The reason that it's not on any of my lists here is because I don't consider it a sports movie. However, you've convinced me that it is.
You convinced
me. Yes.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
What is your definition of a sport? Because it's so broad, but you're talking about a sports agent and a wide receiver for a football team. What's more sporty in a sense than that?
Sports movie
are you looking for more content of actual sports scenes?
I guess so. It's about how it's about playing. It's about on the field or on the court or whatever. Like, it's about that. I think that does it, but I guess it's a very loose definition because you've just convinced me that it is a sports movie because of those analogies that we were talking about in the beginning. So I'm going to put it on my honorable mentions list. It would not crack my top 5, but I'm going to now add it to my honorable mentions as sports movies. You've convinced me.
Groo, how do you see Jerry Maguire just as a pure movie? Like, if you had to review it, what do you? I mean, obviously you like it. What would you say about the movie overall?
4 stars.
Really? Okay.
Everything works. I don't know if it would work as well today because it is a little cheesy, but that's kind of what I like about it. It's not afraid to be cheesy. Cameron Crowe, had a run of movies. I don't know where he's gone, but he had a run of movies which were just untouchable. And his touch is all over this movie. It's fantastic. It's a great movie. And as far as Tom Cruise goes, I don't think I've ever seen any one of the Mission Impossibles. But my favorite Cruise performance is definitely in The Outsiders.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
I mean,
I'm kidding. He's got like half a line in The Outsiders. No, to me, his best performance is in Rain Man. But I have a trivia question for you, though.
Uh-oh. All right, go ahead.
What movie were Tom Cruise from your number 2 and Jackie Earle Haley from my number 2 in together? What was that? Oh, I think I lost him. Wait. Okay, we got him back. We're good. So, yes, I had asked you, Tom Cruise and Jackie Earle Haley from the Bad News Bears were in a movie together.
Oh my God, it's probably an early one.
Yep. I'm sure you've probably seen it too.
Was it like All the Right Moves?
Before that, even.
I'll
give you a hint. Shelley Long is in it. They go to Tijuana. Bunch of horny kids go to Tijuana.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know it? Do you know
I saw it on like HBO. I probably touched myself to it on HBO. Like,
you know who's in it? You know who's in it? That remember the piano playing comedian, Dr. Dirty. He's in it, playing in a bar in Tijuana. It's a movie called Losing It.
Like Losing It. Okay.
Losing It. Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley and Tom Cruise play best friends in that movie.
Where did Risky Business? Where was that sort of? That was what, like movie 3 or 4 for Cruise?
That was right after Losing It. That was I want to say that was right before All the Right Moves.
Okay.
Because Tom Cruise was a star by the time he was in All the Right Moves. And I think it was Risky Business that made him that star. I think.
Who sang All the Right Moves? If you had all the right moves. I figure you know every 80s cheesy.
Samantha Fox? I don't know. I have no.
Belinda
Carlisle.
Wasn't that movie famous because wasn't Leah Thompson
very naked?
Oh, God. I'm going to look that up. Oh, excuse me. Let me.
I don't have to look it up. I got it right on my remote here.
Thank you.
It's a great scene. Great scene. Very sensual. All right. Anyway.
All right. So that's my number 2. Now you gave me your number 2.
Yes. So now we're at your number 1 or mine. You decide.
I'll give you mine because I think obviously I know your thoughts on it already.
Okay. Wait. Let me give you the drum roll. Hold on. Evan Moody's number 1 movie of all time, sports movie. Go.
My number 1 sports movie. And you've already commented on it. Is Rocky?
Aha! I'll give you an applause for that.
Let me give you. Because I watched it very. Come on, I want to be serious.
Go ahead.
I watched it very carefully.
You know it's on my top 10 of all time.
Okay, I took a lot of notes. So it's really a soap opera disguised as a sports movie. And what I took from it this time watching it is, but really be serious. All of the characters are extremely damaged, except the heavyweight champion of the world, Apollo Creed. So Rocky is presented almost as a Rodney Dangerfield of sorts. He's a harmless neighborhood thug or a hack who never reached his potential. He gets absolutely no respect by the people around him. Mickey, played by Burgess Meredith, is an old, broken-down boxing manager who pines for the good old days when he was a credible fighter. And he's looking to manage that fighter who can bring him back to those aforementioned glory days. Adrian, played by Talia Shire, is a shy, quiet neighborhood girl who was actually really abused by her older brother, Paulie. And watch that, I didn't remember to the extent of what an ass Paulie is to his younger sister. Paulie, played by Burt Young, as the older alcoholic brother to Adrian, he blames his younger sister for everything, blames his younger sister for his miserable lot in life, and really essentially abuses her. Even Tony, the loan shark, Mickey calls him a B-level loan shark in the movie. You know, the only person really who's initially presented in any kind of positive light is the black heavyweight champion of the world, who's going to throw a bone to this white Italian local pug. After the fight, there's an injury to the guy he's supposed to fight.
Yeah.
And before we get to the actual meat of the movie, I've always mentioned to you my favorite scene in that movie. If there's one scene, I absolutely love the scene where Rocky's announced he's going to fight Apollo at that July 4th Independence Day in Philly, and of course. You could read the tea leaves as Mickey goes to Rocky's house, which really to me is more like an apartment. They call it a house, and Mickey gives him the whole spiel, talks about his glory days, and Rocky just absolutely goes off on Mickey. And as you see Mickey trudge down the steps, and Rocky he's rejected Mickey because Mickey has rejected his every overture for the past 10 years, takes his locker away, gives him absolutely no respect, and Rocky is just so angry. And then the scene, I'll replay it a million times in my head, and it's one of my favorite scenes in movie history. You get the wide shot, Mickey's trudging down this nondescript Philadelphia street.
Empty street.
Rocky runs down the steps. You don't see, you don't hear what they're saying. Rocky puts his arm around him, doesn't really hug him, puts his arm around him, they talk, and then Rocky shakes hands with Mickey, and we know as the viewer, Rocky knows, not that he's going to win, but the only way to even be competitive against this first-class fighter is he needs a trainer, he needs a manager, and Mickey's his only shot. And he walks away, and he looks back at Mickey, as Mickey trudges off, and they've made that agreement. I could give you a ton of stuff. The other thing the one line that always I took away from watching it this time, Groo, and again I'll reiterate, the damage that these characters have, I didn't realize. I mean, watching it again, they're above the damage line. They're above the poverty line. They're really a bunch of nondescript people that you probably wouldn't look twice at on a typical day. But I think Rocky says to Adrian, we fill in the gaps. I always love that
he doesn't
scene.
say it to her. He says it to Paulie. Because Paulie, the asshole, is like, why do you even like my sister?
Yeah.
And then they talk about gaps.
And it's actually a very sad, depressing movie all the way through. Even the first training montage, it's sad. He's waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He's drinking raw eggs. He's got that dirty sweatsuit. He can't even make it up the steps to the Museum of Art.
Right.
But the first scene where you sort of see some glimmer of hope for the relationship between Adrian and Rocky, for me, is when she gifts him Butkus, the dog, who he had been pining for every time he visited the pet shop. So, again, sports movie, not...
Wait, can I interrupt you for a second there?
Sure.
There's an incredible moment of character development in that scene for Adrian. And I don't know if you picked up on it.
Go ahead.
She actually makes a joke in that scene.
What does she say?
It's very hard to pick up unless you've seen it a million times like I have. Rocky asks, he's loving it. He's like, Butkus. And she's like, oh, to keep you company when you run. And he says, he's like, what does he eat? And she says, very nonchalantly, he eats little turtles. Like she's making fun of his of Cuff and Link, his turtles. Right. And I just you pick those and everything you said. Look, Rocky is on my top 10 list of all time. And it's just this one I don't consider a sports movie, but that's okay. You do, so it belongs on your list. But everything you said is I can't argue with anything. It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, when I watched it again, Groo, I was really shocked at it's really, for the most part, a very, very sad and depressing movie. And even some of the inside stuff that we know, like, for example, Rocky can't sleep. He walks over to the arena and he sees the poster of himself. And, of course, they get the shorts incorrect. Mm-hmm. He's wearing white shorts with red stripes, and they show him in the poster wearing red shorts with a white stripe. And the promoter says, it doesn't really matter. And he kind of mutters to himself, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like, these are people that have been thrown away. You mentioned Adrian. Talia Shire, the preeminent scene to me is when she finally stands up to her brother. Yeah. And finally, hits him on his chest. Not in a way to hurt him, but for her to, she finally stands up for herself and says,
I owe you nothing.
Yeah, you took care of me. No, I took care of you. I cooked. Yeah. I did your laundry. It's really got a lot of depth to it. But I was really shocked for a movie that has spawned maybe the most massive franchise, not good or bad, but just one of the more massive movie franchises in history. And it's seen as a very inspirational movie franchise. That first movie, it's full
deep.
Of blight.
Yep.
It's incredibly sad up until the final quarter of the movie where Rocky sort of assembles that team, Adrian, Mickey, and you start to see that maybe some light at the end of the tunnel. But a very sad, almost depressing movie for the first 3 quarters. And I think the other thing, I'm just free-forming, so I apologize if I'm just...
No.
But you've talked about, and I agree, and I'm not sure that even today's movie viewer will go for it, but, I mean, the movie goes literally 80 minutes, 90 minutes before it really picks up. I mean, it's backstory.
It's slow.
It's not, the sports piece comes in at the very end, even the training. But just the character development, you're right. You just don't see that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure today's moviegoer, could even handle a movie that takes 60, 70, 80 minutes.
No, I mean, you ask
exposition.
Most people you ask today what their most people like Rocky. But if you ask people what their favorite Rocky movie is, most of them say 3 or 4. That's what the stock answer is, because those are the action-packed ones. Those are the ones that start right away without, they don't have to introduce everybody. But what Rocky does is, and it does something that I'm looking at these other movies on my lists, and what most of them have in common is that they have a bad guy. They have somebody to hate. Not just an antagonist, but somebody to loathe. This one doesn't have that. You don't hate Apollo Creed, do you? I don't. He's not a bad guy. He's like Muhammad Ali. He's like he's flamboyant. He's arrogant, but he's not. He's not. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think he's sort of to me where the character kind of gets redemption a little bit. The Apollo character, not that he needed it, and I don't disagree with anything you said. He's sort of presented a little bit as an asshole. Remember the promoter. He's supposed to fight, and the guy gets hurt, and he's like, the promoter says something to the effect of, "I've been promoting fights for 30 years. Don't you tell me my business." And Apollo says, "I got an idea. This is what we're going to do. We're going to. It's in Philly. It's Independence Day. I'm going to grab a local pug, and we're going to build it up. And this kid has got no chance." But to me,
he didn't really say that, though. That's the thing. He didn't know. He didn't say this kid's got no chance. That wasn't what that conversation was about.
I understand that, Group, but read between the lines. I know I'm not wrong here. I mean,
you're not wrong.
He's very arrogant. Maybe not in a bad way, but this guy's the heavyweight champion of the world. Remember, Rocky even says to Adrian, he comes in like a baby, he lays in her arms, and he says, "I really got no shot against this guy." And she says to him, "What do you want to do?" Now remember, in further films, Adrian is like the main foil in a sense where she gives him advice and sort of knows how to break away that tension to free Rocky to kind of to train and get his mind clear. She doesn't really have an easy answer for him here. But to me, where you sort of see Apollo's character is at the end of the 14th round. Remember, they're two separate guys, and it's juxtaposed by race. The black guy is the $1 million heavyweight champion of the world. He's got no needs. I mean, the guy is just absolute first class. Rocky is the poor white Italian fighter who's got nothing. But remember, and they're both broken to pieces. And you could maybe pick apart the boxing scenes, now in 2020. But that's for another time. But remember, both guys say, "Don't you dare stop this fight." Both Mickey says, "Stay down." Rocky refuses. I forget, the Tony Burton character says,
"Stay away from him."
Champ and Apollo says, "Don't you dare stop this fight."
Yeah, he's bleeding inside. He's like, "You're bleeding inside, champ."
They both have heart, and they both want to finish it out. Yeah. Remember, what is Rocky's goal? He wanted to go the distance. Not to win, just to go the distance. So, but in watching it again for this podcast, I was struck by really, it's actually a pretty sad, depressing movie until the very end. And actually, the ending, he loses. But
but it doesn't matter because he did what he set out to do, not what we expected him to do for ourselves. But he did what he set out to do, and that's what matters more.
And I guess in 2 of my 5 movies,
Bad News Bears, they lose.
Bad News Bears, the titular characters don't win at the end.
Right.
And that we don't see that very, very often.
Right.
Now.
You never see it today.
Or nowadays, it's a kind of swerve ending where you're, certainly you probably don't see it in sports movies.
Yeah.
Let me. So I don't know. I said a lot. I'll shut up.
Just because we did a whole Rocky podcast, but just to say one thing, just to show you how this movie sticks with me. I was sitting, all this week. We've been home because of the virus, and we're finishing up our grades, and we're teachers, and so people are still submitting their work even though it's late. It was all supposed to be in last week, and I'm sitting there like, this person just sent in their thing. It's really late. Should I count it? And I said, you know what? I will. You know why? Because I'm sentimental. And that was a lot. That was the Apollo Creed line. He's like, why am I going to give this guy a shot at the title? Because I'm sentimental. Like, I literally said that out loud. And to me, that's just an example of how this movie stays with me forever. But, we'll disagree on the sports movie aspect of it. But as far as quality, it's a no-brainer. It's, like I said, it's on my top 10 of all time. So...
Your point about being a sports movie, forget about the content. I mean, the final scene is a athletic contest.
Yeah. It's like if you want to do like the same thing with like a movie, like another Stallone movie, like Victory. Remember Victory?
I thought about this.
It's not really a soccer movie. It's a World War II movie that ends with a soccer match. To me, but to me, it's about the sport and the intricacies of the sport. Like, the Bad News Bears is all about Little League Baseball, okay? And it emanates from there. That's the genesis of it. Major League is about a Major League Baseball team, okay? Rocky is about a guy who is a fighter, not a fighter and everything he goes through. The sequels are, okay? But not the first one. That's the way I look at it.
All right, let's go. Let's
all right,
go to your
numero uno for me. You're not going to like it.
I know I won't.
But this is my pick as the greatest sports movie of all time, and it's a little movie from 2003 called Miracle.
Yep, I knew you were gonna. You've not been shy. You've not been shy about your love of the movie.
Yes, it is. It's actually. I've said everything I've needed because it. In describing all the other movies, I've said what's great about Miracle. You know these people. You live with them. You know what they're about. You know what they're trying to do. They each have an arc, a trajectory. The performances are incredible. They did what a movie is not supposed to be able to do. We know the ending before we see it, and yet they still somehow made it harrowing. And that is a testament to the writing, to the acting, to just how they do it. It's very difficult to create tension when you know what happens in the end. And yet they were able to do it. Kurt Russell to me, should have been nominated for an Oscar for his portrayal of Herb Brooks. The players, the actors were terrific. The actor who played Jim Craig, Michael Mananudo, who played Jack O'Callahan, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. Not O'Callahan, the actor, passed away. Micah Ruzioni, Mark Johnson. Like I didn't know who these people were. I knew about the team, but I didn't know who these people were until I saw the movie. And I can watch that movie over and over again, and we're just with them. And the way it's made, the director actually, is named Gavin O'Connor. He went to my high school, Half Hollow Hills High School East.
That's there you.
No. That's not it, because he also directed the Ben Affleck movie that just came out. That's not supposed to be very good. But
so is his motif inspirational sports movies?
Kind of. He also he directed the movie Warrior about the MMA fighters, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but that's probably because I'm not a fan of MMA.
Okay.
But he directed a cop movie called Pride and Glory with Edward Norton, which was pretty good. But this movie, Miracle, is just... It's perfect. It's perfect. And like I said, I've said everything. Everything that's supposed to work in a sports movie works to the umpteenth degree in Miracle. See,
it's a good movie. clearly you're really a big fan. I just, when we did even like our top 10 movies, you start getting down to your number one, your number two. There's a real gravitas there. I just don't picture that. I love the movie, but I don't know. I just think it's you want to name it your top 5 sports hockey movies of all time. Number one, that's a tough case. It just doesn't feel when you like number one. I'm not saying about like Rocky. It's had a claim. I'm just not. Did this movie receive acclaim in the sense of nominations? I'm not even saying Oscars. Or did this movie make a ton of dough?
Not a ton. It was eclipsed by, a lot of people compare it to Remember the Titans because they were both Disney. And see,
that's why I wouldn't pick Remember the Titans, because it's a great movie, but it's very Disney. It's very formulaic. It's, diversity. Everyone gets it. It's just, and I love Remember the Titans. Don't get me wrong. Maybe if it was a top 10, maybe a top 15, possibly. It just, movies like that are just a little bit formulaic. And even though we know the ending, I mean, we've had other movies. I mean, I knew what was going to happen at the end of the Titanic, but I love that movie as well. But
I'm not a huge fan of Titanic.
Okay.
But I mean movies like I'll give you the best example that I can think of. It's not a sports movie. Apollo 13. Okay, remember that? We know that they get back, yet we're still grabbing onto the seats during that movie. Like it takes great writing. Everything has to work in order to get like the acting, the writing, the special effects, how the music. Everything has to work perfectly in order to manipulate us into thinking that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And Miracle does that beautifully.
Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on Vudu. I'm going to watch Miracle again, and I will report back. I will report back to you on our next podcast.
Good, that's a great idea. We have the time.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad because I can watch that movie over and over and over and over again. And you know something interesting? I became a fan of the 1980 U.S. hockey team because of that movie. Like it worked.
Oh,
it worked. Well, I didn't. I was 5 years old when it happened. I do remember it.
Yeah, but
I was very young.
I remember as a kid watching in our den in Oceanside, New York. My family was just like straight out of a Rockwell painting. I mean, we were all glued to the television. And,
was Mitch eating a slab of chocolate cake?
Yeah, well, then it all fell to pieces after that, Divorce, allegations, everything. But for a brief moment, we were a happy family watching the U.S. Olympic men's hockey team. But, it's definitely one of those hallmark. It's probably Al Michaels' greatest call of all time, or one of the great sports calls of all time. When you say that movie to me, number one, that's tough, and that's why I don't enjoy per se these top 10 movies we've done them. I enjoy, I guess, doing them, but you just get you get a rip job for what you consider. Sort of, it's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Maybe, but I like it. I like the analysis, though.
Okay, sure.
I like how we can analyze them because this is our way. Basically, these lists are our way of being able to talk about all of these things in some kind of orderly fashion, rather than just throwing things out. Okay. Like I feel like talking about the Hoosiers today. And that's just the framework of it. But you can also talk about, like, I have a question for you. Okay? On your top 10 movies of all time,
go ahead.
The Karate Kid was on there. So my question is, why wouldn't it be on this list if you consider it a sports movie?
That's a great question. I mean, maybe I'm full of holes, but
no.
It just. Maybe that movie to me, while I would consider it sports movie, it's maybe not very sporty to me. I mean, I don't want to get into the definition of a sports movie, but when we came up with this idea,
it didn't jump out to you.
It didn't jump out under the genre of sports movies.
Okay.
you said to me top movies, I just remember being completely affected by this movie, but maybe I didn't consider it a sports movie or the other ones more. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
listen, I'm not a finesse. You're a guy that you had your hand in it for a lot of years. So I'm not quite as finessed as you, and so I try to think about when we do these lists for the topic, what moved me the most. So when we talked about sports movies, I wanted to think of the 5 movies, maybe under my criteria, that I walked out and I went, wow, that was a great 2 hours. Really moved me.
Well, my answer to that same question would probably be something like this. I'm looking at my honorable mentions list, and with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 movies on my top 5 list, Field of Dreams is a better movie than most of my list. Seabiscuit, which you've never seen, to me is a better movie than some of these movies. $1 Million Baby won Best Picture. I think it's a better movie than a few of these, but not necessarily a better sports movie.
Did you like the ending of $1 Million Baby?
Yes. Yeah. Controversy and all. Yes. I was knocked out by it. No pun intended. What about you?
It fit at the time. I've listened to other podcasts or other YouTubers who have talked about the ending being exceptionally rough. It's a debatable point, Clint Eastwood, how it was just. I want to say that maybe I've even seen where the ending, it was considered, it ruined an overall great movie. People really felt, whatever reviewers felt like the ending was just.
Maybe, but like I said, my opinion is that those movies I just mentioned are better than some of these movies, just not better sports movies, if that makes any sense. But I would like you to. You're going to watch Miracle. I would also ask you, and it's on Vudu as well. I would also ask you to watch Seabiscuit. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts of that movie are, because I seem to be one of the few people.
Seabiscuit a Tobey Maguire movie?
Yeah, but it's really Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is to me is the star of it.
I've definitely seen pieces of it. Whether or not I think I saw it in the theaters years ago.
Well, watch it again. It's on there for you.
I will watch it. I will watch both movies. I'll take some notes, give you a synopsis.
Good.
That's my homework.
That is your homework. Do you have anything that you'd like me to watch?
Well, you seem to enjoy pretty much. We hit on one together, which I was pleasantly surprised.
Can you go over your top 5 again?
So I just clicked out of my notes, but my number 5 was the Bad News Bears.
Right.
My number 4 was The Wrestler.
Okay.
My number 3 was Hoosiers,
which we both got.
My number 2 was Jerry Maguire, which
Maguire.
I think found a little controversial. And number 1 was Rocky, which you may have found a little controversial.
Well, only because the definition of sports movie, but that's fine. It's to each his own.
That's why. I know you like these. I'll still do them, but they're my least favorite when we get together because they're so opinion based. Like when we have a topic, there's real factual stuff that you could debate on. Movies are straight opinions.
Right, but I'm hoping to get some opinions from out there from one of our 500 downloaders.
We're approaching. I think we're approaching close to 600.
Yeah. Well, we now have a Facebook page. Look up Nothing Worthwhile.
Looking back at our numbers, the Goldberg was really lagging, but that one has picked up quite a bit more downloads since I last looked at it, and even the Springsteen's picked up a few more. But
next week,
that withstanding, though, let me just ask you. Let me ask you, just the final. You have a nice way of wrapping it up. What'd you think overall of our lists and our top 5 sports movie lists?
Well, we put together 8 movies because two on our list match up. Hoosiers and the Bad News Bears. So I think we put together a list of 8 movies that are absolutely perfection. And if you haven't seen any of these movies out there, those of you listening, you got nothing but time to do it now. So check them out.
Do you think sports movies don't get as much critical praise, from the critics out there because of the topics, so to speak?
Yeah, it's easy. It's the reason is because it doesn't take. I think they don't think it takes a lot of imagination to make a sports movie because there's really only one story. It's rags to riches. That's what. How else are you going to tell a story? How else are you going to do a sports movie? If you look at it, you have a movie like The Rookie with Dennis Quaid, and you have a movie like Invincible with Marky Mark, and they're the same movie, different sport. True story, aging former player comes back and does his thing in the pros, and same, and they make money and they're popular, but it's all the same. Major League, a crappy baseball team, they just find new ways of telling the same story. So people who are critical of that are just going to lose out because they won't enjoy it. So screw them.
Okay.
But I see their point. See, Rocky is a very different story right there. Rocky, we already talked about that. So, but but next week I am actually really excited about.
Well, Groo, in the spirit of WrestleMania, as we make the slow final push towards WrestleMania, we will discuss none other than Bret the Hitman Hart, the best there ever was, the best there ever will be. I don't have notes in front of me. I usually have a good bumper as we get into the next topic, but the Hitman, back in the wrestling circle news somewhat with an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Broken Skulls session on the WWE Network. A more similar to Goldberg, is certainly a controversial figure. So I'll throw it to you, Groo. Bret the Hitman Hart. What might we discuss next week?
We'll probably discuss next week everything that wasn't discussed on that interview, because that interview left a lot to be desired. We'll discuss like the early days of the Hart Foundation, his foray into singles competition, his issues with Hulk Hogan and the championship, WrestleMania 9, the Attitude Era, and his basically his love of the business, but not of the business or of what the business became. He's an old professional. He's like a Bruno Sammartino kind of guy in a John Cena world. I think that's pretty much because that's where a lot of his controversy comes from. But we'll touch on Owen Hart and Bret's transformation to WCW. We're going to do it all.
Clearly, you don't like John Cena.
I do. I love John Cena. I'm talking about Bret Hart's issue with that. It's a very different world of professional wrestling now than the one that he was trained to love in his heart. No pun intended. Again, he came from the dungeon.
He had a lot of difficulty when the WWE went all in on the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And I think he was another guy who really lived his gimmick, and maybe it clouded his judgment or his viewpoints, moving forward.
Yeah, but we'll get into that next week. I'm actually real excited about that. I can't wait to see what you.
Yeah, and I think his prime was a real interesting time in the WWF. Again, you're talking about the ending of the Hogan era and then moving into, I think it was called the New Generation.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be that guy, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that, but I'm really looking forward to that. I want to let everybody know about our new Facebook page. Just look up Nothing Worthwhile. It's there. And I made up our new email address, but I forgot what it was. But but if you wanna email us, just go to the Facebook page and the email address is there. I just forgot what the email address was. But so we got that. We are, we are making the most of our quarantine, and we're, maybe we'll come at you a little sooner with the Bret Hart podcast. And you never know when we might throw up a bonus one.
Quality, not quantity.
Well, I know.
Quality, not
I know.
quantity.
Just trying not to bounce off the walls here.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of research for the Bret Hart podcast. A lot of stuff to go over. So, all right, Groo, that's a wrap for our top 5 sports movie podcast. You want to take us out?
Yes, we want everybody out there to stay safe, stay home. All right, stay home. Let's lick this thing. Let's get it out of here so we can move on. What?
Let's lick this thing.
Let's get rid of it. So we can get out of this.
Anything on you, all right?
Exactly.
You, but I'm not licking anything.
Yeah, but everybody stay safe. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week at the latest if we're all still alive. In the meantime, we got 1, we got 2, we got 3. Rip 'em.
Wash your hands. Whack, whack.